Happy Wednesday and welcome back to Locked On Red Sox podcast presented by BetOnline. Thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen every single day. I'm your host, Massachusetts Pirates team insider Jake Ignaszewski. And unfortunately, I won't be joined today by my co-host, Nesson writer Lauren Campbell, but I was joined by a very special guest, Tim Neverett, who is the former Red Sox radio broadcaster on WEEI and is the current TV and radio play-by-play announcer for the Los Angeles Dodgers and the author of the new book, COVID Curveball. Now, this is part 2 of our conversation with Tim. If you have not listened to part 1 yet, definitely go and check that out. But in this episode, Tim not only talks about his new book, but also explains his experiences with Jerry Remy and Alex Cora and what it was like for him broadcasting throughout that World Series winning 2018 season. So let's listen to part 2 of our conversation with Tim Neverett.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, he's the best. And you brought up the late Jerry Remy, and I was curious some of your experiences during your time with the Red Sox with Rem Dog.
Jerry was one of the best. Really, what a great guy. When I came to the Red Sox, I already had a relationship with Jerry because when I was with the Pirates, when we would play the Red Sox in spring training, we would combine television crews. So in other words, we would take the 2 crews, make it 1, then we'd be able to do double the games because of the cost that you'd incur. So there were times when it would be Don Orsillo, myself, Jerry and Bob Walk, say, one of my, or Steve Blass or John Wayner or whoever my partner would have been that day. And the 4 of us would do the game together. Don and I would split the innings up. We'd have 2 color guys in there, and you talk about each other's players. And so Jerry and I had actually done games together before.
Wow.
And we had already known each other. So when he first saw me down in Florida, my first year, he actually before then he called me and said he was glad I was coming because, somebody he knows and, whatever. And it was the same way when I was leaving the Red Sox. One of the first phone calls I got was from Jerry, and he was disappointed I was leaving. We got along very well. We knew some of the same people in baseball. We shared a lot of stories. He has a friend who has a private plane, and once a year he would take us we'd go on one of the Red Sox road trips, but instead of flying with the team, which was really good as it was, we would fly on this private jet. Wow. With his wealthy buddy. And when we went back to the team plane, it was like we were slumming it. That's how good it was. So we've got a taste of what rock stars live like when they're on the road, and it was fun. We laughed the whole time. We'd go to like 2 different cities. I think there was one year we went to 3. And it was like one of those road trips you don't want to end because you're just having such a good time. You can't wait to get back on the plane and have Jerry get into his stories. So, but when he passed, I was so sad, for obviously, his family, his wife Phoebe and his family and everybody in Red Sox Nation loved Jerry Remy just because he's one of them,
Yeah.
He's Somerset, Mass, Jerry Remy. He's just Jerry. And I think people had seen him on television for so many years. People had gone through a lot of life changes of their own with him while going through the long baseball season. And Jerry, brought a lot of insight about the game, and he also brought a lot of laughter to people and a lot of joy to people, especially when the Red Sox were winning.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And his influence and Don Orsillo's influence throughout my childhood is pretty much the main reason why I'm sitting here behind a microphone. Just how they called the games, the personality that they had. It was just so much fun to watch the Red Sox each and every single night.
Now, don't feel bad for Don, though. Don's doing very well. Don't feel bad for Don. Don, it's part of the business, right?
Exactly.
And Don,
Exactly.
Don and I have discussed it. We've talked about it, and it's it's really it's a funny thing because people don't understand. I mean, when Don was with the Red Sox, he drove an hour and a half from Rhode Island each way. So he's in the car 3 hours a day commuting to Fenway. Now he lives about 10 to 15 minutes from Petco Park on the water on Coronado Island and fishes all the time.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, he loves San Diego. I mean, he loves people saying how much that they missed him, because they do miss him and they should miss him. And he was a big part of people's lives, like you said, but he's doing fine. He loves San Diego. He likes the fact the Padres are competitive now too. Yeah, true. But trust me, he's okay. I know he misses the passion that the Red Sox fans have, and right. So do I to an extent. But I went to a club that has fans that have tremendous passion for their team in the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers, believe it or not, have a bigger following than the Red Sox do internationally. Yeah. It's a whole different experience, but it's really good, really, really good.
I hope you guys are enjoying our conversation so far with Tim Neverett, but Lauren just wants to take a second to talk to you about Built Bar.
You know me by now. You know how much I love Built Bar, and we are in the new year, so that means you have New Year's resolutions probably, and if yours is about getting fit, maybe eating a little bit healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar, and honestly, maybe even better than one. Built Bar makes it easy to stick to your resolution because they taste so good, you will want to eat it. It's not like those other protein bars that can be chalky, waxy, maybe taste kind of like a cardboard. Not Built Bar. And I understand that you want to eat healthy, but it can get so boring. By like week 3, I'm thinking, this just is not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Enter Built Bar, which are covered in 100% real chocolate. And here's an idea for the new year, and I've started to do this. Head on over to all of your secret treat stashes at home, in the pantry. Maybe you have a snack drawer at your desk in your office, wherever. Throw out all the sugary stuff and replace them with Built Bars. So when you're craving a snack or a little treat, you could reach for something that's healthy and tastes incredible. And there's so many flavors to choose from. There's literally something for everyone. Coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, my personal favorite, cookies and cream. Check out built.com often to see what's new, because they always have limited time flavors. And we have an offer for you. Head on over to built.com, enter promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
Yeah, he seems to be loving out there, and I actually posted something a few days ago, actually saying how much I missed him, and it's super nice how he still does interact with Red Sox fans and like on Twitter and everything like that. But yeah, he was just such an influence to so many people in Boston. But you mentioned your good relationship with Alex Cora as well, and through my research, I read that you said the biggest thing that helped the Red Sox be so successful in 2018 is being able to shed off those losses and act like it's a new day every single day, and not allowing those losses to hurt the team. And but one of the biggest reasons they did that was because of Alex Cora. So I was curious some of your experience with Red Sox manager Alex Cora.
Yeah, Alex was great. He had his issue with Houston. He paid the price. He sat out the year. I thought the Red Sox would hire him back. I thought that would be the right move once he was eligible to come back, and they did that. And lo and behold, hey, they make the postseason again, right? So I don't know. Just my personal experience with him has been positive. There's a story in the book, my book COVID Curveball, about Alex and something he did for me and my family. That was a small thing, but he knew it was important. And really, did a nice thing for me that I won't forget ever. So he's just he's a decent guy. He's a decent human being. He relates exceptionally well to the players. And they like playing for him because he's a player's manager. I think that as he gets older, the younger players will probably maybe see him differently at some point in time. But the players now, they really get along well with him. And I think, Boston's a good spot for him. The fact that he is so skilled at both English and Spanish has helped him. And I think that, the Red Sox as an organization are lucky that they have him. And I think he's done a lot. And I know he did a lot to help Rafael Devers when he was young and really struggling. He was really too good at one point to be in AAA. He could have been in AAA longer, but they wanted him up with the big club because they knew he'd have a really successful time, but they needed somebody who could really bring him along. And Cora is the guy that brought him along. That's why you'll see why Alex and Rafi are so close, because they understand the relationship. It was almost immediately after they cut Hanley Ramirez that Alex took Rafi under his wing. And I mean, every day every day in my office, and they would talk about baseball, how to behave as a major leaguer, how to, approach your business and everything else. And look what's happened. This kid's a star.
Yeah.
And he's just, he's going to be really, really good. If the Red Sox are able to keep him for the bulk of his career, he'll be one of the best players they've had in a long time.
Yeah, as most fans, we're crossing our fingers that they sign him to an extension after this lockout ends and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, we've seen the influence that Cora has on the team, and I think it's really incredible how he's a guy throughout his baseball career has gone through it all. He's gotten released, he's gotten traded, he's played for multiple different organizations, he's gotten sent down, and I think being able to connect with players on that sort of level, as well as like you mentioned, being able to speak Spanish as well and being able to connect with the younger players, I think it is what helps him be so successful as a manager.
Yeah, it is. And in this day and age, it helps quite a bit, especially when you're dealing with, a lot of minor leaguers who are from Latin American countries. You can really communicate with them better, especially during spring training when you get to see them. And the manager will go to the minor league fields. He'll go check it out. He'll go talk to people, try to motivate them too. That's a big part of the manager's job in spring training. So we'll see what, I think he'll do very well in the long term as a manager of the Red Sox. I know the ownership believes in him, and, he's rewarded them with a World Series and almost another one.
Yep.
Last year. Came very close to getting back to the World Series, a lot closer than anybody ever thought they would.
Yeah, I completely agree. Last year was so fun. But the last question I have about the Red Sox, and I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your book, is what was one of your favorite games to call while broadcasting for the Red Sox?
There were a lot of them, but I would say, picking one game's hard. I think maybe Game 4 of the World Series. Steve Pearce went crazy with the bat, and he hit a bases clearing double. Can't remember what inning offhand, but he hit a bases loaded double. And I remember calling the double. He's into second base, and in the next instant, I'm thinking to myself, "This is over. This series, we're going to win the World Series." And obviously with my time in Pittsburgh, we never came close. And, this is the World Series, and it's the Red Sox, and it's against the Dodgers, and it's a big stage. It's a really big stage. And I'm thinking to myself, this thing's over. And having known Steve from my time with the Pirates, because he came up with the Pirates, I knew Pierce a long time. Just to have him be the guy, I felt kind of connected to him. And I was really, really happy for him. I mean, there are a lot of other moments. I think, and I do chronicle this story in the book too, the day after my dad had suddenly died, Mookie Betts hits a walk-off in the 10th inning against Minnesota. And I was, I remember a lot about that game, but not for just being a baseball fan, just, with whatever was going on in my life at the time. But I don't know. There were so many fun games. It's fun experiences with Boston. But, at Fenway Park, you never know what's going to happen.
Never.
I think of the time when, who was it? Stanton hits the home run, and a fan got it in the monster seats and threw it back and hit him. as he was rounding second base.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
And I think most Boston fans were thinking, hey, great arm. But it's like, that's not really what you should be thinking there. You should be thinking, you can't do that. But I don't know. There's some times at Yankee Stadium where, we had some fun games. I think actually calling the clincher for the division series.
Oh, yeah.
At Yankee Stadium was one I remember as well.
I remember Kimbrel almost blew it.
Yeah, but it was actually, it was a bang play at first. And the reason I remember it so much is actually Pierce was at first base. He catches the ball, game over, but wait, because now Aaron Boone wants to challenge the call at first base. So the challenging thing as a broadcaster is I know he's going to challenge the play because it's bang. But Pierce catches the ball, and I know that there's going to be recordings of this and everything else. It's a series clinching call. So I went through with it like the game was over. Just because, if it is actually over, then this call is going to be fine.
Right.
So we go through the replay. The replay goes in favor of the Red Sox. The game was over, so it worked out. But I was kind of sweating it there going, man, if this thing gets overturned, that's just going to stink. Then I got to do it again. And it's going to be anticlimactic at that point if we win. But I don't know. There was a lot of great games, a lot of fun times. And I especially enjoyed working with Joe.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how tough that game was to call that 18-inning one. Like that must have been a little bit tough.
Yeah, that was game 3 of the World Series. That was 7 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I thought they were going to win it in the 13th. But what's his name? Who's the guy we got that used to be with the Tigers?
I'm trying to think.
Ian, drawing a blank. Anyway, he was at second base and he committed an error. Like what happened was
Ian Kinsler.
Ian Kinsler, yeah, thanks. So Ian Kinsler grabs the ball, sets his back foot, and his spike gives way. And then he throws off kilter, and the game gets tied. The Dodgers score and tie the game. We continue. Max Muncy hits one down the right field line that just barely hooked foul. That would have won the game for the Dodgers. And then in the 18th, against Nathan Eovaldi, he hits one out. But the end of the World Series, though, was really so memorable because Eovaldi was up in the bullpen and so was Joe Kelly. And Chris Sale had told Alex before the game, I'm there if you need me. And he goes, okay. And this was game 5, right? So he might have needed him in game 6 or 7, but they were going to put it away.
Mm-hmm.
And Sale, on his own, went out to the bullpen. No one told him to. And on his own, he got up and told Eovaldi and Kelly to sit down and started warming up on his own. And then in the dugout, they're hitting Alex, and he's looking out there going, oh, my gosh, okay, well, what am I going to do? So when it was the 9th inning, the door opened, and in comes Chris Sale. I mean, Alex had nothing to do with that decision. That was all Chris Sale. People don't realize that. Chris did that on his own.
That's
and
crazy.
What was Alex going to do? He's like, all right, bring it in. Let's get it over. And they did. He struck out Manny Machado, and that was it. But I'll remember, the post-series celebration in the locker room. Joe and I were in there, and we're doing interviews, and it was just absolute bedlam. It was chaos. It was crazy.
I hope you guys are enjoying our conversation so far with Tim Neverett, but I just want to take a second and talk to you about BetOnline. There might be less football being played, but BetOnline.net has way more stuff to be bet on this playoff season. From scored, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. It's not just football. BetOnline.net's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your #1 online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts.
But fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was it pretty incredible for you? I mean, even though all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes, being able to take a step back, think in your mind, especially you growing up with how tough it was being a Red Sox fan. Did you ever imagine that you'd be able to, call a final World Series out for your favorite team, the Red Sox?
No, I don't think you ever think that. I don't think you ever think as a kid, boy, I can't wait to be in there for the final out. I'll be in the booth for the final out of the World Series when the Red Sox win. You never think that. It's just right place, right time. Very lucky, very fortunate. Timing was good at that point. But at that point, I already knew that I pretty much knew I was going to the Dodgers anyway at that point. Makes sense. We waited till after the World Series was over. Then we got the deal done, and the rest happened. But yeah, I don't know. There are times when I miss it there. I miss some of the people there, but it was a great experience for sure.
And you obviously had an amazing experience with the Dodgers throughout the 2020 season. I mean, it was pretty cool, even as just like a baseball fan, seeing the Dodgers be able to win it. And I'm not one of those people who will have the asterisks just because of the 2020 season. But it was really interesting reading through your book, COVID Curveball. I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about that, because even though obviously this is a Red Sox podcast, this is a great book for just baseball fans in general, because being able to hear the behind the scenes of what it was like for you to broadcast for a team like the Dodgers throughout the whole COVID year was really interesting and fascinating read.
Well, thank you. And there's some mentions of my time with the Red Sox in there. And it's funny, I just did an event for the Society of American Baseball Research, and there were Red Sox fans on the call that ordered the book. So that was nice of them, I thought. But yeah, 2020 doesn't deserve an asterisk. It just doesn't. When you went through it every day, you realize that it was difficult. Like for me, getting through that shorter 2020 series was more mentally draining than going through the next season in 2021 last year. Just because of all the protocols, all the things you had to think about, all the things you had to do. And I don't ever want anybody to have the impression that they should feel sorry for us because we were inconvenienced during a baseball season. That's not the point. We get to see baseball live. We work in baseball. We're pretty lucky. But it was different. It was so different than anything I'd experienced in the past. So decided to chronicle it and did it on a day-by-day basis. But by the time the World Series ended, we had the manuscript done about a week later. So we were able to get the book out faster than most books are published. But yeah, there's a lot of different things about that season. A lot of different things about Red Sox fans would enjoy reading about Mookie Betts. There's a lot about Mookie in there, a lot about Joe Kelly in there. Just to kind of give you an idea of what would happen on a day-to-day basis. Getting to the ballpark, getting in. Am I going to get in today or not? So in the preseason, there were times I couldn't get into the park because they lost the results of my COVID test.
Oh my gosh.
And then found it. And then by the time they found it, it was too late to go that day. So, just little weird things that happened along the way, like what kind of wildlife was coming down from the hills of Chavez Ravine. Now there were no people there.
Yeah.
What kind of animal is going to meet you at the car tonight? That kind of thing. And my partner on radio, Rick Monday, where did he live during that? I mean, he lived, I call it on campus, but he lived in the parking lot at Dodger Stadium. And there's a lot of stories about that. There's a few stories about that in there, about how that came about. And why did he do that? And what was the point? But I think there's just a lot of baseball stories in there that people would enjoy. It's not 100% a Dodger book, but it does take you through the Dodgers run of spring training, quarantine, summer camp, as we called it, and then the regular season and postseason, all the way to winning the World Series, and what went into that, and what was going on in the 7th and 8th innings where Justin Turner was all of a sudden out of the game. The most 2020 thing about 2020 was the fact that a guy who had a positive test for COVID-19 and Justin Turner lasted longer in a game than a pitcher who was dominating Blake Snell was dominating in Game 6, and due to analytics, he was taken out. He didn't last as long in a game due to analytics as a guy who had a virus. And I thought that was one of the most 2020 things about that season. And the Dodgers went on to win it. Once Snell was lifted, 6 pitches later, the Dodgers had the lead. Their only lead of the game, and they won. And they won the World Series, put it away. And Mookie Betts did something that only Babe Ruth has done. And you have to read about what that is. So
where can people find the book?
Get it on Amazon.com. That's the easiest way. It's in hardcover, Kindle, or audiobook. Also, if people want a signed copy, they can just find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just send me a message. My instant messages and my direct messages are open. And then I'll sign it and send it directly to whoever wants one. So that's a way to get a signed one and a personalized book. But those are pretty much the ways to get them. But if you just want to have it delivered through Amazon, you can do that too.
Yeah, everybody go and check it out. It's definitely a great read. Like I said, very fascinating. And as a baseball fan, you're able to see what life was like for Tim throughout that entire season. But really appreciate you taking the time tonight to talk about your experiences as a Red Sox broadcaster. And yeah, really appreciate it.
No, thanks, Jake. And I hope we see the Red Sox in the World Series. That'd be nice.
Hey, hopefully they're playing the Dodgers.
That's what I mean.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening up to this point and for tuning into this episode of Locked On Red Sox. Thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Now, also make sure to follow Locked On Red Sox over on Twitter. That's LO_Red Sox. Also follow myself over there. It's at Jake Iggy, as well as my co-host, Nesson writer Lauren Campbell. It's at La. That's 3 La's, Lauren with 4 R's. Now, we greatly appreciate everybody tuning in to this episode of Locked On Red Sox. Now, definitely make sure to check out next episode because we are going to be talking to new minor league coach, Katie Krall. And she is also the second woman that was hired in the Red Sox organization. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that episode. But I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys and talk to you guys next time. Peace.